Hello and welcome to another edition of the Monday Night Wars. It's November 4th, 1996, and we are live with WCW Nitro at the Van Andel Arena in Grand Rapids, Michigan. I am Scott, and with me, as always, is Joseph. Joseph, how are you doing, my friend?
I am fantastic, and I gotta say thank you because listeners, you guys know that we tend to record in batches. And last night we were running out of time. We started a little bit later than we wanted to. I think it was my fault if I'm remembering correctly. I think
Always is.
Absolutely. And so we started later than we wanted to, and the Dodgers World Series Game 2 was going on, and so Scott let us finish after a few, and so now we're back the next day, and I'm happy to say we're up 2-0.
Absolutely. Although our New York-based listeners, of which we have many, will be very upset to hear this.
They will, but you know what?
Oh.
After Ohtani got hurt and they were all cheering it, they can go fuck themselves.
Well, all right. We've just lost our New York listeners. Hopefully we can pick up some somewhere else. Because if I can't make rent this month, I'm on the street. We're in Grand Rapids, Michigan. We love Grand Rapids, Michigan. I've never been, but I assume it's very nice. Anyways, Eric is not with us.
True.
He's off. He's off on assignment signing Rowdy Roddy Piper, because even though he made an appearance at Halloween Havoc, he apparently wasn't signed. Man, their security is terrible.
Yeah.
Because he didn't, this goes back to one of our kind of criticism of these sorts of things. They're playing this thing that, he crashed it, right? But he came down the ramp.
Yeah.
Right? If you're going to crash it, come through the stands, right?
Well, he crashed it by coming through the main entrance for talent, right through gorilla position, down the ramp.
Yeah, and through hordes of security.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if they've got hordes of security. We've seen them when they tried to keep out Mach, and there was only like 3 of them.
Oh, that's very true. That's very true. And we believe everything we see.
They were camped out at one door, so maybe Piper just used the other one.
Yeah. I will say Sting is in the audience. He learned the story that, if you're trying to be like the odd man out, you don't come down the ramp. He's in the crowd being Sting. Just kind of staring.
I loved this because Zbyszko says he says about Sting, he goes, he thinks he's the Family Opera or something, which is kind of true. I mean, Sting gave them his music, made their song take wind, and now how they've repaid him, denied him and betrayed him.
That's beautiful, man. That was beautiful.
I was dude, when he said that, I was like, I'm getting the shit in. It is going to be in.
Hear me out, though. Hear me out. What if, though? What if Sting's muse was Lex with that Farrah Fawcett hair from Halloween Havoc? What if Sting was his angel of music?
Who plays Raul then?
I don't know. We'll think about it. But just imagine Lex hitting that high note. Oh, it'd be so good. It'd be so good.
But like, he'd forget half the words.
Yeah, that don't matter as long as he hits the high note,
Oh,
I will say, before we move on to the actual task at hand here, I will mention that I noticed, I don't know if you noticed this, but Larry complains about gas prices.
I have this written down. I'm so glad you're bringing this up.
And it's $1.40.
Well, specifically, he talks about how gas in the 70s was 35 cents a gallon, and the government told, and this is true, the government told everyone there was a shortage of gas and that people had to ration it. But now gas is $1.35. I think you said $1.40, whatever. And there's plenty for everyone. Fear and paranoia is the same tactic that the NWO is using in WCW. What a great fucking line. Like, yeah, it's an odd complaint, but what a great way to tie that in.
So what you're saying is the NWO not only controls professional wrestling, but it controls the United States government, and it's setting gas prices.
I mean, Hogan's trying to get a politician elected to be president right now. So yeah.
Hell yeah, man. This is wild stuff. This is wild stuff. I also saw you've been getting political on our Twitter, man. Don't think I don't see this shit.
I have not been getting political. Jim Cornette has been getting political, and I just thought it was an interesting tidbit and retweeted it.
I'm just saying, King and Undertaker endorsed the other guy, and I don't see that tweet. I don't see that tweet.
Well, because theirs isn't true.
Oh, okay. But you're not getting political. Not at all.
Not at all.
All right.
I'm,
All right.
you know,
Okay.
like Dragnet, I'm just sticking to the facts.
You know, I'm just saying I write in Bob Backlund every year. So that's my opinion of it.
What if one year Bob Backlund just got elected because enough people just had enough, and they were just
start
like,
that campaign, write in Bob Backlund. Let's get Bob Backlund elected. Is he still alive?
yeah, he's still alive.
Well, then let's get him elected.
Make America plebeians again.
He'll go to North Korea and just friggin' chicken wing Kim Jong-un. Oh, it'd be so good.
Yeah.
Nuclear program over. You know, I love it. We got our first match, and it's Brad Armstrong. We like Brad Armstrong versus Marcus Alexander Bagwell. 7 minutes, 27 seconds. I like both these guys. What do you think?
I do too.
You know, Mark Bagwell is not the greatest wrestler, but I honestly think he makes up for that in like his stage presence. Like I think he's good at being a douchey heel.
Yeah, which he's not yet. He's actually right now. He's a babyface, right? The American males are babyfaces, but it's interesting that you bring up douchey heel because we see some of that in this match and on this night.
What a segue, my friend! I did that for you.
Brad Armstrong
and Malone.
Fuck off! I am not Carl Malone. I don't diddle kids. That's Jerry the King Lawler. Anyways,
that's all. That's allegedly, but go on.
Anyways, let's talk about the show, Scott. I gotta be professional here because someone keeps rambling.
Timekeeper, keeping us on time. I appreciate you, man.
So at some point, Bagwell slaps Brad Armstrong, and Armstrong gets furious at this. He gets mad, and he starts just absolutely decimating Marcus Bagwell. And again, we haven't really seen Bagwell do anything like this. And then after this kind of decent TV match, because there's really not a whole lot more to write about in regards to the match, but after the match that does see Bagwell win, he starts showing a little bit of attitude. It's a fun TV match, fun opener. I gave this a B-. Not the best thing we'll see, but a really fun opener.
Again, this is another thing kind of about the WCW. They're so packed with matches, right? And let me see. Let me count again. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 matches. Pay-per-view amount of matches. There's not a lot of time for storytelling, so you kind of got to do it in the ring. Is he making a heel turn? We'll see. Yes, he is. Next up, though, Diamond Dallas Page versus Ice Train. 6 minutes, 34 seconds. Joseph, what are they doing to my boy Ice Train?
I don't know, man. Rest in power, Ice Train. Love that dude. Commentary makes a point to show that the outsiders have been cheering on DDP as of late, which is true. We see the same spot from a few weeks ago where Ice Train tosses DDP onto Nick Patrick. I thought that was kind of odd that they went back to the well on that one. Like we just saw, I think it was like 2 weeks ago. It was not very long at all. He then clotheslines DDP out of the ring. And with all the momentum his way, the outsiders clobber Ice Train with the tag titles. Nick Patrick is quote unquote checking on DDP and naturally sees none of this. DDP eventually gets back in the ring, hits the Diamond Cutter, and he gets the win. Given this a B+, there is storytelling in here. Yes, they did our boy dirty, but it was necessary for the story, and we do know where this is going for DDP, and that is so exciting.
I loved how DDP noticed none of this.
He was knocked out. What do you want him to do?
He didn't see anything, nothing at all. Nick Patrick didn't see anything. DDP didn't see anything. Nobody saw anything.
No.
It's amazing.
In fact, I'm not even sure I saw anything.
Yeah, I didn't know what happened. I still don't, even though I just heard it. But I do know that WCW Saturday night is 6:05 on the Superstation, where everything happens. Because Nitro's so tightly packed, they reserve the storylines for Saturday night. But I noticed this time there was a little bit of a jab on this one where Tony says that Saturday night, and I don't know if this is true, but I assume it's true. They're looking at ratings, is beating, quote, some other primetime wrestling shows. So we got the 82 weeks on Nitro. Do we got an 82 weeks on Saturday night too?
Well, it's 83 weeks, but
I don't know, man.
I'd wager to say it's probably true.
And there you have it. And you're saying it's 83 weeks, but maybe I don't give it to Nitro every week. Maybe it is 82 weeks. It's set by me.
Oh,
That's what
okay.
it's set by. Yeah. Little known fact. My last name before they changed that Ellis Island was Nielsen.
See, I thought it was Dave Meltzer because he always flip-flops on what ratings actually mean.
Well, it's funny. It was hyphenated, Nielsen Meltzer.
Okay,
fact.
gotcha.
Yeah. And then they changed it Ellis Island to something completely different for some reason.
Yeah, absolutely. They were like, Corleone, and then you're just like, okay.
Good times. Well, after that, though, we got our cruiserweight title match. The American males, we're getting them all tonight. We had Bagwell. Now we're getting Scotty Riggs versus Dean Malenko for the World Cruiserweight Championship. 3 minutes, 22 seconds. What goes on here? What's going on?
I love that this is the second consecutive week that Dean Malenko has defended the cruiserweight title, but specifically against people who are not cruiserweights. Because it was Jim Powers last week. It's Scotty Riggs this week. Anyways, it's still fun, though. They're good matches. Six is in the crowd. He wants the cruiserweight belt from Malenko. This is his continuing story. Scotty Riggs is on the top rope, and Malenko knocks the ropes. Riggs then falls to the outside of the ring, and Bagwell, instead of checking on him to make sure he's okay, just picks him up and rolls him right back in the ring. Bagwell seems kind of upset about Riggs' misstep, and Riggs immediately gets rolled up by Malenko, and after Malenko wins, Riggs and Bagwell argue. This gets another B. This is a good start to what will be the eventual split up of this tag team, but we're off to a really nice start of the show.
And there's some long-term storytelling here. We're showing, a slow burn to heel for Bagwell, right? As opposed to just like switching him. So I like it. I think this is good. We're telling a story tonight about Buff Bagwell, if one wants to call him that, because he is pretty buff. Some even might say he's the stuff.
I was going to say, does he have the stuff, though?
He might. Well, see, he thinks he's got the stuff, but he doesn't think Scotty's got the stuff. And he wants to win. I also like our next match, which is Chris Benoit versus Hector Guerrero, because we got the whole Guerrero family in the WCW. Very exciting. Tell me about it, Joseph. Tell me about this Chris Benoit Hector Guerrero match.
This is a fun match that ends with Woman grabbing Hector's hair and causing the distraction that allows for Benoit to get a roll-up and the win. This is, I think, the first time we've seen Hector on Nitro, but we'll see him periodically here and there over the next year. They kind of want to do this Guerrero family kind of idea, but they never really land it. And it's just like, okay, whatever. But I do like Hector quite a bit. The match itself was fine. There's nothing going into this, so I'm giving this one a C+.
I would have loved Los Guerreros in the WCW. I think that they would have been fantastic in a feud with the Villanos. It would have been wonderful.
You would have pushed the Villanos to the fucking moon.
Bro, they would have had every title. I think it would be fun for them to have a title and you to not know which one actually has the title.
Oh, that'd be good.
We don't actually know. Like one of them legitimately won the US title or something, but we don't actually know which one. And so they just friggin' it's just a different one every night. Or the TV title or something,
That'd be a really good TV title feud, because I don't think you could put them, a little bit higher than that right now, but you could gain some serious momentum behind them with that shtick.
Yeah, and it would be fun. They would even wrestle for the TV title a couple times a night. Every once in a while, we'd have it up 2-3 times a night. It's like, what, the stamina of this piano, But it's just a different guy. Anyways, we go backstage for an interview. Well, was it backstage? I can't even remember anymore. I'm saying it's backstage. It might be ringside. I don't have it in my notes. I don't remember. Anyways, Chris Benoit and Mongo apparently don't like that Jeff Jarrett is now in the Horsemen. And they tell him to get out of here, man. No one asked them if he could join. And Jarrett, he don't really seem to know what's going on.
Yeah.
And so he just keep talking about Sting and stuff. I thought Jeff Jarrett was supposed to save WCW. For 2 weeks, he was going to be the hero, and then he got chokeslammed at Halloween Havoc, and now he's feuding with the Horsemen and Sting or something. What? What'd you make of this?
It is an odd one. I will say, in a rare turn of events, I did like Mongo here. I thought Mongo did an excellent job. So essentially what happens is, Tenay says it's very clear that the Horsemen are far from full strength. And Jarrett immediately starts talking, like you said, like he's a part of the Horsemen. He calls himself the lead horse, in fact, which is That's big. That's a big claim. He says we may be down but not out. And then Benoit interrupts. And I like this from Benoit too, because it's short and sweet. And he says, any business pertaining to the horseman shall be dealt with by a horseman. And then Mongo asks Jarrett, how can anyone walk in the door and say this is my house? He says that he and Chris will stay vigilant and that this Four Horsemen interview is over, and then they leave Jarrett by himself. I like this. This makes a lot of sense. And this will be kind of a storyline that goes on. Specifically, will be between Mongo and Jeff Jarrett. I do think this is a very good idea. This makes sense. A legitimate like gripe. I get it. Like how the hell do you just all of a sudden think you're the leader of us? After that, Tenay then says he understands that Jarrett is upset and that no one in WCW has taken the leadership role, which goes back to what you've been saying for quite a few weeks, Scott. Sting, like you said, is up again in the crowd, and Jarrett says that WCW has to unite. He calls out the Four Horsemen, Dungeon of Doom, Luger and Arn, Nasty Boys, and Piper, saying they all need to stop fighting and work together. He shoots a bullseye every time, and you can't say that about Sting. He turned his back on WCW, so you can cross him off the leader list. It may be he, Flair, or Piper, but whoever takes charge will lead to the NWO's downfall. So I liked the first part of this. The second part of this, and you kind of alluded to this, not as good. And because it's now muddied, we had this idea that Jarrett was going to lead WCW. That was the claims. That's what was going on. And instead of seeing anyone usurp that idea, instead, he's now kind of backtracking and being wishy-washy of whether or not he actually is going to lead. And that does not work for his character. That's a huge misstep. Whoever told him to say this, or if he chose to say this, whoever was the decision maker behind this really fucked up.
But after that, man, we got some big news. Alarm bells, hit the siren. This is big. We got a women's match, and it's a tournament. There's apparently a women's title tournament, and Medusa is gonna go against Reina Jabuki. I don't know, man. Tell me about this. 3 minutes, 14 seconds.
Oh, man. Well, did we talk about Lee Marshall?
Do I not have that in my notes?
Bro, Lee Marshall is in St. Petersburg, Florida.
Oh, my God. I'm sorry, Lee.
He is having a Nitro party in the springtime home of the New York Yankees. Like you said, though, we are having this women's tournament. They showed the title at the top of the show, by the way, and it's a nice looking title. It's not the greatest title I've ever seen, but it's nice. Reina Jabuki versus Medusa. Medusa is my girl, which brings me to America's favorite game show, Bobby or Jerry, Jerry or Bobby. Which one could it be? This is the game show where we give a contestant 2 quotes, and they have to decide if it's Jerry the King Lawler or Bobby the Brain Heenan. Today's contestant hails from Sacramento, California, our nation's capital. Please welcome Scott Bartholomew Kaufman. Scott, how are you doing today?
Oh.
Glad to hear it. Scott, before we get into the rules, let's tell you what is on the line in tonight's episode of Bobby or Jerry. Take it away, Mach. Scott Kaufman, yeah. Today you're going to be competing for a Flair electric range oven by Frigidaire. America's most beautiful kitchens get their flair from Frigidaire. Dig it. Wow, sounds amazing, Mach. Scott, we have slightly updated rules. Are you ready to hear the rules?
I guess. I thought you were going to interrupt me again.
In today's challenge, because Medusa went by the name Alundra Blaze in WWF, both quotes will refer to her as Medusa to avoid giving away a clear answer. Scott Kaufman, are you ready to play Bobby or Jerry?
Okay.
Quote number 1. Medusa will fight you. There's no doubt about that. Medusa can beat most men. This is one tough woman. Quote number 2. You know, Medusa, with her looks, could star in TV westerns if she had 2 more legs. Scott Kaufman, which quote is Jerry the King Lawler and which quote is Bobby the Brain Heenan?
This is a really tough one. I'm going to have to say that the first one is Bobby and the second one is Jerry.
Ding, 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 ding. Scott, you have won a Flair electric range oven brought to you by our friends at Frigidaire. Join us next week, same time, same channel.
That was beautiful, man.
What a difference between Jerry Lawler and Bobby Heenan. Both heel commentators, and one doesn't suck.
Yeah.
So during this match, Zero, a women's wrestler from Japan, comes out to spectate. She's supposed to be the big bad, it would appear. Medusa hits in early Stratosphere, made famous by Trish Stratus. I don't know if this was part of Medusa's main arsenal. I don't remember seeing her do it, but as much as I love Medusa, I don't know a lot of her Japanese work. So there you go. This is a fun but quick match. It does see Medusa hit the German suplex with a pin bridge for the win. I gave it a B. I enjoyed it.
It's a women's match.
Yeah.
we haven't seen one of these, and
it's one where Medusa has a real women's match.
I can't even remember the last time we saw a women's match. 2
with Bull Nakano that were quite good.
Yeah, but when?
That was Hog Wild. That's how long it's been.
Yeah, I don't remember that. When was Hog Wild?
April, May, somewhere around there.
My God, yeah, it's crazy. But now they have a title. So, I mean, they've gone to all the trouble of making a title. So clearly after this tournament, we're going to see more women's action, right?
I don't want to talk about it.
Oh, okay. Foreshadowing.
I also don't want to talk about who's definitely never going to win the title.
Foreshadowing. Well, let's talk about our next match. And let's talk about Chris Jericho versus Mr. Wall Street. I don't even remember what he's going. Is he M Wall Street?
M Wall Street.
Okay, yeah. Not VK anymore. Or
no, they ditched that a while ago.
Probably got a cease and desist letter. Vince figured that shit out and said, That's how he talks. I don't know if you knew that. But tell me about this Chris Jericho M Wall Street match. 6 minutes, 47 seconds.
This is a fine match that does end in a small package for Chris Jericho to get the victory. Not much happens in it except for commentary calling Hogan scared of Piper. I gave this a C.
Well, I was going to do a little research, but I guess we're done. Well, because I was thinking, didn't we have another like small package tonight to win a match?
Yeah, it was Dean Malenko and Marcus Bagwell.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. Because I was going to say you could call WCW UPS with all these small packages.
Jesus Christ!
What? Anyways, after that, we got Mike Tenay interviewing Nick Patrick with his attorney and Chris Jericho. We got everybody here, and it's like the exact same thing. It's Jericho injured Nick Patrick. Jericho says you're all full of shit, and this is a scam. And Teddy Long comes out and says that Nick Patrick is a liar. And I've seen this. Have I seen this?
Yeah. It really is the same. The only interesting thing in it is we've talked about foreshadowing. We got a little bit in this promo where Alan Sharp says that Jericho's wall appears to be tumbling down. This is not a wrestling reference yet. This is a biblical reference that would inspire the later Walls of Jericho move. In Joshua chapter 6, verses 1 through 21, the Lord tells Joshua to take his armies around the city of Jericho and blow trumpets as they march around the city. They do this for 6 straight days in a row. Then on the 7th day, they do it again. And on this 7th day, as the people shout, the walls of Jericho would tumble down. This happened as the Lord predicted, and then the Israelites stormed Jericho. Joshua killed them. He killed them all, and not just the men, but the women and the children too. They were like animals, and he slaughtered them like animals. He hates them. Speaking of animals, the Israelites also killed all the sheep, oxen, and donkeys. The only ones that were spared were Rahab and her family for helping Israelite messengers. Like 70% of the Old Testament is genocide. And then we're surprised Israel is dropping bombs on innocent people.
What are you doing? What are you doing? First you're getting political on our Twitter. Now you're getting political on the pod. What is going on here? And I was just waiting to make a John Mellencamp joke about the walls coming crumbling down. Yeah. And then you hit me with this. I don't even know what to do with you anymore. We're moving on. We're going to move on to our main event, which is Flexi Lexi Luger versus the Booker T. Tell me about this match and keep it germane to the topic, sir.
Lex gets a picture-in-picture saying Sting refuses to answer him, and he hopes that the overtures from the NWO are falling on the same deaf ears. Really nice line from Luger. I mean, dude, 96 Luger's pretty hot. I'm just saying. He wants 1 minute of Sting's time to sit down face to face, and that's all he asks. It is a short, sweet picture in picture. It is to the point, and like I said, great line in it. I think it worked very well. This is a decent match, and Lex goes for his torture rack, but Booker has the wherewithal to grab the ropes to prevent it. Lex releases and walks into a Harlem sidekick. Colonel Robert Parker comes to ringside, hugging Sherry and supporting Booker. Booker goes for an enziguri, and you know I love a good enziguri, Scott.
Absolutely.
This wasn't it.
Oh.
Booker climbs the ropes for a Harlem hangover.
It wasn't Owen.
That's true. Yeah.
Owen's got the best one in the game.
Yeah, it's great. Jericho has a pretty good one too later on. Anyways, Booker climbs the ropes to go for the Harlem hangover when Robert Parker gets onto the apron. Apparently, he's trying to cheer him on like closer or something. It's a little bit muddied. I'm not quite sure what was going on. Booker jumps down. He's kind of done with Robert Parker, and he grabs him because he's kind of just being a distraction. Not kind of, he is being a distraction. And he grabs him, and he's screaming at him. And then Lex takes advantage and hits Booker into Parker, and then goes for the what's this roll up. Sherry is upset at Parker as Lex wins. I gave this a C.
It was all right.
Yeah.
Is it the main event?
No.
I mean, technically, yes, but it didn't really feel like a main event. Although I don't feel like Booker T is main event yet. Like I love Booker T.
Yeah.
And he's going to be a much deserved main eventer, but I just don't feel like he's there yet. So this is kind of this was a weird choice to put Lex versus Booker T. It's another one where like you could see it coming a mile away who's going to win. So it wasn't really that exciting. What's really exciting, Joseph, what's so exciting is we get a call from Eric Bischoff to end the night. We get a call because he's been out on assignment getting Roddy Piper to sign with the company. And you know what, Joseph?
What's that, Scott?
He didn't do it. He couldn't get it done. Apparently, Roddy's agents are getting in the way. So Eric's going to personally speak with Piper next Tuesday in Toronto, where apparently Roddy's filming a movie because he's a big movie guy too, just like Hogan. But he actually does good movies, which is different. They Live. Great movie, everybody. Everything John Carpenter does is good. Even the stuff that isn't good is good. I will fight you on it. Anyways, after that, though, we get like the same thing again.
Well, hold on. Before we go into that, though, because
Okay.
I wanted to bring this up because if you're listening to this episode, presumably you've listened to all the previous episodes, and you know that we love, but specifically Scott really loves, the phone interviews. He loves them. Eric Bischoff's phone is way too clear in this. It is so clear that he is backstage and just talking through a mic. It is insane how clear he is. It barely sounds like any sort of static or anything is in the phone call. And I was like, like the minute I heard him, I was like, that's jarring. I don't like that.
You know, I just assume Eric is a rich guy and he's got like a satellite phone or something. But no, the reality is he's just backstage.
Yeah.
Because this is all bullshit. Because Rowdy's already signed or he wouldn't have been at Halloween Havoc coming down the main ramp. I guess in theory they're doing this to try and like drag this out to hype for, because I assume, this match is going to be at the pay-per-view, right? Obviously. Piper versus Hogan is going to be a pay-per-view match. So I guess maybe they're kind of dragging out the drama until the pay-per-view, but just say Piper's filming a movie. And that's why he's not on TV. They've done it with Hogan a dozen times. Just do it with Piper too. But then after that, we get the whole Piper Hogan confrontation again. It's like the same episode as last week. We get Hogan hyping his film, Santa with Muscles, which he did last week. And it's a terrible movie. He thinks that he should get an Oscar for it. He said Ted Turner should nominate him for an Ace Award.
I actually had to look those up because I'm a little too young to realize that those were a thing, the Cable Ace Awards.
I thought you were looking up to see if Santa with Muscles really won an Oscar because it was a contender. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely nominated at least.
Yeah, it's an honor just to be nominated. What did you think of this? I mean, it's the same thing again.
I gotta see from me because of that reason, right? It is literally the exact same from last week, except for I will say with this one, they did show the thing in entirety, which really was like, what are we doing? Like, that is insane to be doing that. Did not like it.
Yeah, they're clearly scrambling to figure out ways how to drag this out to the next pay-per-view, which is like 5 weeks away. I'm looking it up. It's the 24th of November. They got to find ways to drag it out, but you don't need all of this. Just say, Piper signed, but he's finishing up a movie and he'll be at World War III. Problem solved. And then you can have Hogan talking shit, and then you can have Piper talking shit on like video or whatever if you want to kind of keep the heat going. Or I didn't care for it. This could be a week. Since we effectively got a rerun of Nitro, maybe this is the week that WWF wins it for us. So let's get into it. Let's talk about this, because this is an infamous episode of WWF Raw. They're at the War Memorial Coliseum in Fort Wayne, Indiana. And the show opens with a recap of last week. We got Bret Hart and Stone Cold going at it. Bret's at home. Stone Cold's in the studio, which he's very annoyed about. Because why does everybody else get to be home and Stone Cold has to come into work? We're going to hear from Brian Pillman tonight, but he's also home. He's at his home in Walton, Kentucky, and Austin doesn't like that either. He says, why everybody else get to work from home, and I don't. So he says, if anyone's going to be at Brian Pillman's house, Stone Cold going to be at Brian Pillman's house. And that's how we open, man. We got Kevin Kelly live from Walton, Kentucky, which apparently is a suburb of Cincinnati, Ohio, which that's weird. It's weird how some of this stuff works, right? Where you can be a suburb of a city in a different state. But I guess, if the cities are close enough together, like Kansas City, and Kansas City, Missouri, crazy stuff. We're live from the home of Brian Pillman. What'd you think of this?
It's fine. It goes right into our first match. So if you don't mind, I'm going to kind of go into that, because then it goes right back to this segment. So the first match is Goldust versus the Stalker, and Stalker has Mark Mara with him, Mark Henry, and Rocky Maivia. This is the first time we've seen him on television. They're all with him, and that's because of the Survivor Series match. They're all going to be on a team together. Again, just a mishmash of talent thrown together. Makes no sense. Stalker, by the way, wasn't he supposed to be a heel? But okay, whatever. Anyways, Doc Hendricks interrupts in the studio and says that Stone Cold is on his way to Pillman's, and Stone Cold's on the phone and says, I'm the biggest star in the world, so who's going to stop me? Pillman inspired a new verse in the Book of Austin 25:17. I will strike down upon your ass with great vengeance and furious anger, and that's what's going to happen. It's a great line, but Austin is referencing Ezekiel 25:17. However, in a humorous turn of events, because it appears Austin didn't read his Bible, he's actually referencing Pulp Fiction. So this is kind of a funny one that happens quite a bit. In the iconic scene where Samuel L. Jackson as Jules kills Bret, he says, the path of the righteous man is beset on all sides by the inequities of the selfish and the tyranny of evil men. Blessed is he who in the name of charity and goodwill shepherds the weak through the valley of darkness, for he is truly his brother's keeper and finder of lost children. And I will strike down upon thee with great vengeance and furious anger those who attempt to poison and destroy my brothers. And you will know that my name is the Lord when I lay my vengeance upon thee. Quentin Tarantino expertly took the gist of Ezekiel 25:17 and then rewrote it to fit the theme of not only the scene, but the inner morality of the character of Jules. He has a severe spiritual tie in understanding what is right and what is wrong, but is walking the path of one who is not righteous. The internal paradox sees its resolution later on in the film during the Bonnie situation. In the Bible, there is rarely, if ever, a single verse that is this long. What Tarantino rewrote was essentially Ezekiel 25:15 through 17. Thus says the Lord, because the Philistines dealt vengefully and took vengeance with a spiteful heart to destroy because of the old hatred. Therefore, thus says the Lord, I will stretch out my hand against the Philistines, and I will cut off the Cherethites and destroy the remnant of the seacoast. I will execute great vengeance on them with furious rebuke, and they shall know that I am the Lord when I lay my vengeance upon them. That's the line that he basically rewrote completely. Chapter 25 of Ezekiel is God basically talking about how he will protect Israel from its enemies and destroy them for their idolatry of other gods. Philistines are a repeated major enemy of Israel in the Old Testament. Back then, it was anti-Semitism to attack an innocent Israel. Today, it's anti-Semitism to say Israel should stop attacking innocent people. Boom!
Oh my God, what are you doing? What are you doing?
So what Austin is doing is incorrectly reciting Pulp Fiction line and not the verse of the Bible, which is hilarious to me. It's very cool. Tarantino inadvertently created a Mandela effect, his version of Ezekiel 25:17, and you will very often see people use his quote as the reference instead of the real quote. If you don't know what a Mandela effect is, which I think is fascinating, if you're listening, this is the first time you've ever heard of one, it's when something is so popularly misrepresented that the misrepresentation becomes the widely accepted belief. Another term could be collective false memory. Great examples include the line from Empire Strikes Back, Luke, I am your father, when the real line is actually, no, I am your father. Another is that Sinbad starred in a movie called Shazam, where he played a genie. Many people will swear this happened and that they watched it. No such movie exists. Mandela effects are fascinating, and I suggest you go look into them if you haven't already. So now Austin's line here, I will say, isn't as good as his Austin 3:16 line, which would explain why there's no book of Austin shirts or merch. Why it doesn't work is because it isn't relevant to the Pillman character. Austin 3:16 specifically targeted Jake the Snake and his Christian rhetoric that he was displaying weekly. The line was just, wasn't just potentially blasphemous. It was a great dig at Roberts. Back to this phone call. Vince warns Austin that there is a welcoming committee of police waiting at Pillman's house. Fun fact, there is not. Austin says, I got a 6-pack of whoop ass riding shotgun with me. Bless this man. What a great line. The match itself is okay, but it does not get us hyped for Survivor Series, which it's supposed to do. However, the Austin vignette in mid-match certainly does. The match ends in a double disqualification. I'm giving this a B exclusively for Austin. The match could fucking have never happened. It would have been fine.
It doesn't have to. Yeah, I mean, I guess the only thing that really needs to be mentioned about the match is that the Stalkers out there with Mark Marrow, Rocky Maivia, Mark Henry, Goldust has Hunter Hearst Helmsley, Mr. Perfect, and Crush. This is all related to the pay-per-view where Survivor Series where they're gonna have a match together. So this is to kind of build heat for that, I guess, because they all kind of go at it. And Mark Henry takes his pants off for some reason. And, whatever. Whatever. I don't care. I care what's going on in Walton, Kentucky. And we get more of it because we come back from commercial break and we got a Stone Cold video. And it's hot, bro.
It is, yeah.
It's hot. He's talking shit to Bret Hart. He's talking shit to Shawn Michaels. He says he ain't a sexy boy. He don't dance. He's going to take his years of frustration out on Bret. And that when he beats Bret can be at peace because he knows he lost to a real man. Oh, it's so good. I love it. What'd you think of this?
It's fantastic. I gave this an A. There's nothing really I can say beyond this. I loved every moment of it.
We're telling stories tonight because after that, we hear from Vince that Austin is apparently circling the neighborhood, looking for his way in, and Kevin is ready to do the interview, but we don't got time for that shit because Doc Hendricks needs to talk to Paul Bearer and Mankind and the Executioner about their match at Survivor Series, where apparently Paul Bearer is going to get locked in a cage, which is then going to be elevated above the ring. They did this with Jim Cornette a couple of months ago or a year ago. I don't remember. They've done it before. We've seen it. The only thing that really matters here is that Mankind says that Taker was going to wish he stayed buried. Gong hits. We hear Taker. And then from the rafters, something covered comes down. The Executioner pulls it off, and we find out that it's mannequin of Paul Bearer hung upside down. My goodness, what did you make of this? Pretty intense stuff.
I'm going to be 100% honest with you, Scott. I don't remember this shit at all.
That's how good it was.
Yeah.
It's not even during the show. It's like it's from some kind of, I guess it must be like a road show called the Big Bang Boom Tour. And that's it.
I do remember them talking about the Big Bang Boom Tour, but I don't remember this whole thing.
Yeah. I think that the Paul Bearer dummy should have caught fire in the cage. That would have been hot.
That would be hot. Literally.
It didn't. It didn't, and it would have been some foreshadowing for things to come, but they don't know about that yet. They don't know they're doing that yet. Because they still got fake Razor and fake Diesel, of which we see tonight. So, it is what it is. But let's get back to the matter at hand. Let's get back to the important topic. We go back to Brian Pillman's house. And, Kevin Kelly's having a serious conversation here about Brian's ankle. He apparently got reconstructive surgery. Brian Pillman says he's fine and he should be ready to go in 97. Brian doesn't really care about that. Brian wants to talk about Stone Cold Steve Austin, who he says he's known for years. They were best friends. But Stone Cold has crossed the line and he's made it personal. Vince chimes in and says, well, he's circling the neighborhood. And Brian says, well, Austin 316 is going to meet Pillman 9mm Glock, and I'm going to blow his sorry ass straight to hell, and proceeds to pull out a gun. I don't know if it's a real gun. It looks, this is like grainy 90s TV, so it could be a prop gun, but it looks like a real gun to me. And everyone freaks out, and they cut to, they do like a, oh shit, technical difficulties, cut to commercial. This was insane, and I really liked it. What did you think of it?
I don't know if you could ever give this not an A, right? It's one of the most memorable moments in wrestling history for a reason. So I was going to ask you, actually, because I'm not a gun guy. You know that. I know you are. Is this, at least, even if it's a prop gun, is this actually a Glock?
I don't think it is. Okay. It doesn't look like a Glock. I'd have to look at it again, but yeah, the barrel doesn't really look like a Glock to me. I'm actually looking at an image of it right now. I pulled it up. Glocks are just really, they're very square, because the big thing about Glocks is that they're like almost entirely made of polymer, which is really low weight and kind of low cost. That's why they're so popular. But as a result, they're very square, kind of boxy. And this does not. This looks more like a Browning high power or something like that. But anybody watching is a gun guy. Give it a look. Tell me what you think. So yeah, I don't think it's actually a Glock, but I like the line anyways.
Yeah,
and I think they use Glock.
It's a great line.
And I think they use Glock because everyone knows Glock. Like Glock is kind of a euphemism for guns nowadays.
Yeah.
Like we talk about Arn's Glock. I don't even know if Arn had a Glock. I think, did he pull a gun? Did we see a gun?
No, he didn't pull a gun. He just did the motion of it.
Yeah, he just made reference, and we call it a Glock. We don't know if it's a Glock. He calls it a Glock. He probably knows what he's talking about. But
I'm sure Arn has a Glock.
Yeah, my dad has a Glock. So Glocks are popular.
I live in Texas. They just have them in vending machines.
Yeah, there you go. That's beautiful, man. They mail them to you when you move in. I love that. But it's crazy that they have him pulling a gun on cable television. Like,
yeah, this is
crazy.
I don't think it had ever been done, especially in a live format before, right? Like, that's technically Raw is not live, but as far as the viewer knows, it kind of is, right? That's pretty insane.
Yeah, and I'm excited to know more. This is insane. They cut to commercial pretty abruptly, and it's like, my God, what's going to happen? We got to come back. Show me more. And when we come back from commercial, Milton Bradley karate fighters. I love me some karate fighters. But how do you come back from Brian Pillman pulling a gun on live TV and threatening to shoot Stone Cold Steve Austin, who is supposedly circling neighborhood? And we got to take a brief break to talk about Milton Bradley karate fighters. How do you think Milton Bradley felt about this? that they're wedged between these two segments.
That's a good point, because that's like the whole Domino's pizza scandal, right? In AEW a few years ago, when it was what's his name? Nick something or another. The
I don't remember this scandal. Tell me more.
It was Chris Jericho versus I can't remember his name. The death match guy. I can't remember his name. So, go ahead.
John Moxley?
No, not John Moxley. Like, but the real indie guy. Let me look it up real quick. Let's see. Chris Jericho.
Nick Gage.
Yes, Nick Gage. Thank you, Nick Gage. So it was them, right? And Nick Gage pulls out a pizza cutter and starts using it on Jericho, and they go to picture in picture, and there's a Domino's pizza ad at the same time. And Domino's was furious. It was hilarious.
I think that's kind of fantastic, actually.
I actually think that's great marketing. I don't know what the fuck is wrong with Domino's.
Wrestling fan, yeah, a wrestling fan. That's the right market for that. A wrestling fan sees that and goes, "Hell yeah!"
Yeah, I'm gonna get some Domino's right after this. Yeah.
But anyways, we got to talk about these karate fighters because we've got a tournament and we got Psycho. Forget Brian Pillman about to commit murder. Who cares? Let's talk about Psycho Sid versus Marlena in the karate fighters tournament. Sid wins. I was kind of surprised. Sid wins, and Marlena tells her fighter it's never going to work in this town again, which I thought was
Yeah,
great.
she fired him. That's so good.
Yeah. What'd you think of this?
I mean, I thought Marlena was fantastic. I'm not grading this. It's a throwaway segment. I do like cross promotion segments, but I did think Marlena did a phenomenal job in it.
Yeah, and apparently next week we're going to see Doc Hendricks versus Sable. I'm very excited.
Yeah, because Doc Hendricks won't be fucking weird about it.
Not at all. Unlike Jerry, Jerry said something in this that I can't remember, but I'm sure it was offensive.
Yeah.
I just remember him making a comment, and I was like, Jerry. Anyways, let's get back to Brian Pillman's house, back at the ranch. Austin is here. He has arrived, and he rolls up and proceeds to beat the shit out of everybody.
Yeah, and it's like these are all like Brian Pillman's friends. That's who they're supposed to be.
They're supposedly his friends. Clearly, they're probably indie guys they picked up off the side of the road. But he like drowns one in a kiddie pool.
I laughed so fucking hard when he was doing that. And then the other one he tries to decapitate in the Jeep door. Oh my God, it's pure cinema.
And then hurls another guy into the garage door and dents it.
Yeah,
like actually breaks the garage door.
It's
like
phenomenal.
I'd be kind of pissed about it. Brian Pillman's like, dude, I gotta replace that now.
Yeah, Hopefully it wasn't his real home.
I read it was, and that Pillman never fixed the garage door. He just left it like that.
That's fantastic.
And God bless him for doing that.
Yeah,
I would buy it just for that. I'd buy that house.
Invite Austin over just to sign the garage door.
Dude, I would. I absolutely would. Have him sign right next to it. Oh, and I guess I should mention too that Steve Austin is wearing a Brian Pillman shirt while he's doing all of this.
I didn't notice that. That's great.
Yeah, it's Brian Pillman's ECW shirt.
Oh, wow.
The hits keep coming, bro. The thing I find most amusing is then Vince says this is like a publicity stunt. Like, what?
Yeah.
What are you talking about? Why? This is the hottest thing you've had for months, and you're downplaying it, Vince. What are you doing? Because Vince doesn't think this stuff's any good. He thinks what they've got in the ring is good. That's what's going to help them win.
What a segue!
WCW.
What a segue!
Yeah, Vince says I don't need this. This soap opera shit. I've got real wrestling in the ring. That's what people are coming for. Let's talk about our next match. The Sultan versus Alex Porto. What the shit? Tell me about this. This is Fatu's new gimmick. Why they gotta do Fatu like that?
This is boring and bad. It gets an F.
That's it?
That's it. There's nothing else to say about it. It's bad. I'm not spending any more time on it.
Well, yeah, and I will say even the announce table is really not
just unenthused. Yeah.
Yeah, well, because they're talking about what's going on at Brian Pillman's house. Because there's possibly a murder that's about to occur. Seems kind of serious. This is the most serious we've heard Jerry in a while. Jerry's concerned. He wants someone to call Austin and tell him not to enter the house. Like, do not go in there. This is bad. This is gonna get bad. Don't do it. But I think it's before cell phones, man. How do you get a hold of Austin? Then we go back to Brian Pillman's house, and Kevin Kelly is nervous.
Hold on. Could you imagine if in mid-show they paged Austin and he had to pull out his pager and then go to a payphone and then call them to be like, "What?" Just get all mad. That'd be so good.
Yeah. Hello, and then goes back anyways.
Yeah.
Right back. Beats through the guys he just beat up to get back in his car, drive to a payphone at a 7-Eleven, take the call, come back, beat their asses again. We're back inside Brian Pillman's house. Kevin Kelly nervous because he thinks he's going to die. Brian Pillman's girlfriend is there now too?
His wife, yeah.
Okay. And Austin's apparently stalking around trying to find the way in. We hear noises. And then the back door, Austin breaks the glass, opens the door. I hope that was a fake door, man. What are we doing to Brian Pillman's house?
He also never replaced the door.
Yeah.
Just left it open.
And this looks like a den or something. It's kind of weird. This room is weird. It's like a den. It seems like it's like Brian's like den or like his like hangout room or something. It's just a weird room. Stone Cold breaks in. Brian's wife screams. Jerry Lawler's saying, "Don't go in there." This is like a horror movie. Don't go in there. And then Brian points his gun, and then it cuts. We get static. We get technical difficulties. We go to commercial. Oh my God. This is scary. I got to know what's going to happen next, Joseph. Well, when we come back from commercial, we get right back. No, we got a face-to-face segment with Shawn Michaels and Psycho Sid.
But before we do that, I do think that it was interesting. Jerry pleads after they cut the feed. Jerry pleads for someone to call the police. Good guy Jerry?
Jerry's concerned someone's going to die.
Yeah, like which I do think is even though he's a heel, to be clear, I do think that's the right call because you're a heel for the in-ring situation, right? I think it's good every once in a while when even the heel commentator goes like, "No, we've gone too far." When they do that, I think that works really well.
Remember when we said we're going to give credit where credit is due?
Absolutely.
I think Jerry sells this really well.
He does. I think he's perfect in it.
I think he does a good job of making you think that this is real. He's dropped all of his gimmicky bullshit. And he's just like, "Oh my God, no, this is real. This is serious. We need to get the police there. This has gone too far."
Yeah,
right?
It's great.
It really makes you think that this is really happening.
Yeah, because to your point, if he had kept doing like the Jerry Lawler laugh and the all this gimmicky bullshit, it would have taken you out. You would have been like, "Oh, come on, what's the worst that could happen?" Right? It would have not felt the same at all.
It's good stuff. I'm in. I'm invested. I'm excited. I want to know more. Shawn Michaels and Psycho Sid. They're at podiums.
Yeah,
microphones like at a debate. I don't understand what's going on. And we're told that we'll go back again to what's going on in Walton, Kentucky as soon as they regain the satellite feed. And again, Vince says that this is a publicity stunt. I don't get why he's doing this. Maybe he's worried. Maybe he's worried that people are really upset and they're going to call like the actual police in Walton, Kentucky. So he's like, don't call them. This is just a publicity stunt. I mean, maybe that's what's going on. This is your boy Shawn, so I'm going to let you talk about this, but I'm just going to say it right now. This is weird.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So JR, by the way, is doing the interview, and it feels like in this segment they have kind of dropped completely the JR heel thing because he doesn't like talk about how it's his segment or anything like that. He doesn't badmouth any of the commentary saying I'm the only one who can do this, I'm the best, or any of that stuff. He just does a normal interview. He asked Shawn if he's forgiven Sid for all those power bombs over a year ago. Shawn says yes. Then he asks Sid if he has forgiven Shawn for calling Sid crazy. And Sid says it's bullshit. And he never walked out of the loony bin back to the WWF and that HBK is dumb to say so. Shawn says Sid knows who he has to thank for getting him back into the WWF. JR asks Sid why he hit Shawn from behind. Sid says it was an accident. Shawn says he agreed. This is bad Shawn Michaels. It just is. It's bad Shawn Michaels. He's too squeaky clean, which makes for boring segments. And I would argue that Shawn would say absolutely you're right because Shawn is so much better when he's cocky and kind of a conniving piece of shit and all that stuff, much like he might have been doing backstage at this time. But
true to life, art imitates life, life imitates art.
Yeah. This segment's not great. It ends in a push back and then Camp Cornette, which I guess is a thing again, when did that happen? Probably on WCW Saturday Night. They surround the ring. Yeah, they surround the ring, including Clarence Mason. What? Okay. They attack HBK and Sid. Owen hits Sid with a chair, and Shawn takes out Owen and grabs a chair to chase off the rest of Camp Cornette. And then Sid, who never saw who hit him, thinks that Shawn did it because he sees him with the chair. Camp Cornette again attacks them, and then they clear Camp Cornette. I'm giving this a D. This should have, first off, this segment was way too long. I don't like any of the interview stuff. I think it should have just been them in the ring going back and forth. Just both of them have a mic, no JR, none of that stuff. They're just both talking, and how that way Shawn can really kind of not be so formulaic. And Sid shouldn't be the one running this, right? He's just not strong enough to do that. But if Shawn could kind of guide him through it and make it work, I think that would have been fine. The other thing is, what should have happened at the end of this is I liked the chair spot. I thought that spot was really good. But then they have Camp Cornette attack again, and now they're on the same side again. That was a waste of that chair spot. That should have ended with Sid incensed, thinking Shawn hit him. And because he's so angry, he rips the chair out of Shawn's hands and chokeslams him. That's how that segment should have ended.
Yeah, I don't get this whole thing. I don't get why they went to the trouble of constructing this podium like it's some kind of debate. I honestly don't hate the idea of them having a debate, but obviously Psycho Sid is not the guy that you're going to put there. Like if Shane Douglas was still around, I could see him and Shawn having like Shane Douglas wanting to have a debate or something like that. And I think you could maybe make it work there, but I mean the whole thing is just weird, and I don't know why they went to all this trouble to do this when they could have just had an in-ring back and forth conversation and still got the same result. It's just bizarre. But we don't care about that. We want to get back to Brian Pillman. What is happening with Brian Pillman? When we come back from commercial break, Full Metal the album, not Brian Pillman. We get Freddie Blassie in his recording studio, and there's kids dancing. And I don't like this commercial. It makes me uncomfortable because they have a kid in like the Shawn Michaels outfit dancing kind of sexy because, that's what Shawn does. And then Freddie Blassie's just sitting there watching, kind of going like, yeah. And I'm like, I don't think this was a good decision. But they apparently think it was because they just keep showing it for months and years. You want to talk about this at all, or do you want to keep going?
Well, I do think, and as far as the show goes, right, I know they got to do these ads, right? They got to do these commercials, Karate Fighters, Big Bang Boom Tour, this horrible commercial we just talked about. All those things should have happened in the front of Raw. So that way, like they should have happened after the Stone Cold on the phone segment. That's when they should have happened. So that way you could keep going back to the Brian Pillman stuff and not have these breaks that kill the momentum. That's what I think they should have done.
Yeah, you could just delay the Brian Pillman stuff to like the second half, right? You could start and say the show. Obviously, you have to acknowledge it. We start the show, say we're here. We'll be talking with Brian Pillman in the second hour, because right now we're concerned about Stone Cold crashing it or whatever, and then kind of gotten all of your must do selling shit done in the first hour, and then really devote the second hour to the Stone Cold angle. And pepper in here and there, just saying we're still dealing with Stone Cold or whatever. Yeah, I don't know. It's wild. And they just keep doing it because we come back again and we still got static. Still nothing. So they show us a replay of what we've seen so far. And then we go into our main event, our match of the night. Mark Marrow, this is the main event, versus Fake Razor Ramon. It's 7 minutes, 44 seconds. Tell me about it, Joseph.
This match is boring and bad. Fake Razor wins with the Fake Razor's edge after a distraction from Hunter and Mr. Perfect. It gets an F. I hated it.
I had a feeling that was going to be short. I was ready to come right back in to talk about the grand finale, where we finally get the feedback. Brian Pillman's friends are holding him back. They say they don't know where Stone Cold is. Vince wants to know if anyone's been shot.
Yeah.
Kevin Kelly says, not yet. He says, it's weird too. He says, I wrote this down because he talks about how no one has been struck by nobody's been struck by, and then he pauses and he says explosions, which I wonder if that was like standards in practice saying you can't say bullets. You can't say anyone has shot a gun. So I wonder.
Interesting. Yeah.
I wonder if like they're just trying to like, you can't say that. Finally, though, Austin comes back. There's more screaming. Brian Pillman tells his friends to get out of the way because he's going to shoot that son of a bitch. Pillman uses an F-bomb, and we hear it. And Jerry Lawler screaming for someone to get the gun, to take it. His wife is crying. This is insane. This is crazy. Vince apologizes. I think he knows that they're going to get in trouble for this.
I do think that this was not as strong as the previous segments, because it's a little bit like, okay, why is this happening? I personally think that this all should have ended when they cut the feed, and all you should not have been able to see visually, and all you should have heard was a gunshot, and that should have been the end of this whole bit. This, they kind of like, there's no real way, there's no payoff for this, right? Because to your point, it might have been standards and practices that were like, you can't shoot the gun, that might have been a thing, I don't know, but there's no real payoff to this. It ends more on a whimper than it does. Like the suspense is so good throughout this night, but then you have the climax and it's just kind of over, and it's like, oh, okay. So it's almost like two guys, like when you're in school and two kids are like, we're gonna fight each other after school, and everybody's like, oh, the whole day, oh, they're gonna fight, and then it never happens. It's like that, and it's like, oh, okay.
And then
So
one of the kids bolts. He's on the first bus out.
yeah, and then the other kid pulls out a Glock. Yeah. So in Texas, that could happen. So it just didn't really work for me. I did like it. It's still got a B, but it just wasn't as strong as the previous ones.
Yeah, there's no real payoff. I think, honestly, they kind of went too far at this point, right? You're right. They should have just kind of let it be ambiguous. If you can't shoot the gun, you can't shoot the gun. Brian points the gun. Austin comes in. We cut. Like, you don't have to hear the shot. You can just, kind of leave it at that. I did read that they got in a lot of trouble for this, as you can imagine. Raw or USA was not pleased by this whole thing. And Vince had to do a lot of mea culpas with the executives to keep it going. But it's one of the most infamous segments in WWF Raw history. This is history. We just watched history, and you all got to listen to us talk about watching history. Who won tonight, Joe? So I feel like this might be the first time where it's actually kind of close.
It is close.
In the 83 weeks, because while the in-ring action wasn't great on WWF, it wasn't really all that great in WCW either. There was a lot of jobber matches, a lot of whatevers. Who won?
I'm still giving this to WCW, but it is so close because so I don't even call those jobber matches. Those are TV matches, right? Those are the kind of matches you want to. They're all mid-card guys. I would like to obviously see more like Chris Jericho's versus Dean Malenko's, things like that, but that is what it is. But those matches were all standard and good across the board. They were all like, and a lot of the matches told stories in the matches, right? Marcus Bagwell, his whole thing, DDP, his whole thing, Dean Malenko, his whole thing. Like each one of them was telling a story. Jericho, like there was the post-match thing with, Nick Patrick, which obviously was a rerun, but fine, whatever. And then obviously there was the whole end that was a rerun. So, but I do think the show was consistently, I don't even want to say good, but okay. This show has the far more memorable moment on Raw. By far. It's not even a fucking question. It's by far the more memorable moment. But man, every time that it got interesting, they just fucking killed their momentum. And most of it is like really, really stupid fucking matches, or, the segment with Sean and Psycho Sid that was useless and didn't do anything to help further their story or set up for an interesting twist or anything. It left it out on a whimper, and now we're supposed to see them at Survivor Series, which is only like a few weeks away, and there's zero hype for it. There's no reason to be hyped for Survivor Series outside of the fact that Stone Cold's going to be there. That's not good. So I'm going to give it to Raw, or to Nitro, but Raw got real close this time.
Whoa, I thought you were going to give it to Raw, and I was like, wow. Because I'm really on the fence too. Part of me kind of wants to give it to Raw, but minus the Brian Pillman, Stone Cold stuff, which in the end they kind of botched. Everything else is not good on Raw, right? Like, I guess Goldust is good, but Goldust is going up against the Stalker. Who cares? And the Sultan, we hate the Sultan gimmick. Alex Porto is a jobber. Fake Razor Ramon, we hate the gimmick. Mark Mero, we like, but they're doing our boy dirt. He loses to Fake Razor Ramon. What the hell? I think I'm giving, you know what? I've talked myself into, I'm giving it to WCW just because of how dirt they did our boy Mark Mero. WCW wins.
Yeah, each match was horrible on Raw. That's insane.
And the only reason this is memorable is because Brian Pillman pulls a gun.
Yeah.
That's it. Otherwise, this would be just another boring episode of Raw. But hopefully this wasn't a boring episode of our podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. And that does it for us. As always, I'm Scott. And with me is Joseph, the unsinkable Joseph Rojas. Say goodbye, Joseph.
Bye, Joseph. Hey, everybody, it's Joseph. And guess what? Not only can you listen to us every Monday on Spotify, but you can find us on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and YouTube Podcasts as well. Just search for Monday Night Wars Podcast. If you want to reach out to us, you can find us on Twitter at MON Night Wars Pod, on Instagram at Monday Night Wars Podcast, or just email us at mnwpodcast@gmail.com. And finally, subscribe to our Patreon at Monday Night Wars Podcast. For $2 a month, you get every pay-per-view from WCW and WWF during this era, as well as additional content later on. Once again, thank you for listening. We'll see you here next time on the Monday Night Wars Podcast.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Monday Night Wars. It is November 11th, 1996. Wait, did I get this wrong? It's not November 11th.
No, it's November 4th.
I think I put the wrong number. Hold on 1 second. Pause for station identification.
Why does it matter?
Oh, because my notes are right, but the card I think is wrong. I think I did.
Oh, got you. Wow, this is embarrassing.
I pulled a card without paying attention, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, whatever. Here's the date. Let me see here. Yeah, everything else should be right. Yeah, okay. Let me just pull this card real fast because we are not in St. Petersburg, Florida at the Bayfront Arena. That's next week. Little teaser.
And we'll hear all about it.
Very exciting.
All about it.
Very exciting. Let's see. Okay, it's November 4th.
Yep.
It's at the Van Andel Arena.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I like how you're saying that. You have no idea. Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Absolutely.
All right, let's start again.
Okay.